Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first ever eAEC, or Academic Excellence Day online. I'm so happy to be here and be a part of this. I think this is really, really awesome, and I'm very, very excited to bring you guys what I've been working very hard on for the last 2 semesters. So if you are unaware, the computer science division does their senior seminar a little bit different than other, or at least some other academic majors, and where we take the first semester of our senior year to plan a project and the last semester to execute a project. And the project I have planned and executed here for you today is called Dungeon Viewer. So you see all this nonsense I've got going on here in front of me? Well, this is basically because I'm a huge nerd and I really like what are called tabletop role-playing games. Tabletop role-playing games are, as the name sounds, they're a role-playing game that's meant to be expressed through a bunch of different tabletop miniatures, dice to simulate randomness, and of course, a bunch of books to give you the rules and the mechanics of the game so that you can play through them. But one of the biggest parts of that game is the way that you express it. Some people do theater of the mind, which is in where a person tells a story and you just kind of imagine what's happening. Other people, like myself, really like to use mats just like these with all these different kinds of miniatures to express the game in a more realistic and tangible format. So what I decided to do for my senior seminar project, since I had a vested degree of interest in programming, in systems integration, and in augmented reality and virtual reality, is to create a system for a phone application that could augment a tabletop role-playing game through augmented reality. So that is what I have to present for you today. The whole planned project was that you will be able to have 2 colored tokens, a red and a blue, and you will be able to determine which model you would like to appear on those tokens. So I'm going to jump over to my computer screen here right now and walk through this entire project with you guys. I really hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you after. Okay, hello again and welcome to the internal side of the Dungeon Viewer tabletop role-playing game augmented reality experience. An awfully long-winded way to say the Dungeon Viewer Android phone application, but that is virtually what the project is. In fact, that's entirely what the project is. What I've developed here is an Android-only phone application that will provide the user an augmented reality option for their tabletop role-playing game experiences. So kind of diving into that a little bit, I'm not really going to jump all the way into the technical mumbo-jumbo. I don't need to bore anybody with that. However, I will go over some of the more important bits that are important to the overall story of the project. So some things I do want to start with is that the project was made entirely in Java. The front end utilized XML very heavily. With the back end doing the Java side and all the programming. Now, there was one main package or plugin that I used for this project, which was right here at the top of the screen. You can see Google AR Sceneform. The Sceneform AR plugin is a set of assets developed by Google for augmented reality experiences and augmented reality developing. To put it simply, basically, Google developed a toolbox that I was able to use to build this project. Now, all of the front end that you'll see, so all of the user-facing aspects that you will see, were still entirely done by myself, and all of the logical programming, so when you click a button, when you do something specific, when you move things around, that was all me. That was all something that I built from scratch. However, throughout it, I very heavily used these AR assets. Kind of think of it as that Google provided the blocks, but I still made the tower or the bridge with those blocks. So just a couple of other things I kind of want to show you within here. We'll be intermittently bouncing around. I'm going to try and do this all in just one screen here so that we're not jumping around video images all over the place. So some things I do want to show you is that I mentioned just a couple of minutes ago at my kitchen table that the user will have a red token and a blue token that they will be able to assign different models to. Well, that's what we see right here. These different AR nodes are those red and blue tokens, and then we can assign different models to them. The whole point of the AR game is to be able to allow the user to add different, like, say, models of a character that they're playing within the game to be able to visualize themselves on their tabletop experience. So with that, I needed to come up with a way to actually create these models, because 3D model creation is not an easily performed task. So I thought about, back in the planning phase, I thought a lot about maybe downloading them off of the internet. There's a slew of different free options out there for downloaded 3D models. I thought about creating them myself in applications like Blender or Adobe, and that proved to be incredibly difficult and maybe a bit too on the artistic side of things for my taste. So I went with a far more technical solution, believe it or not, and I found this program, or this software moreover, called Kinect Technology. And what Kinect Technology is it takes an Xbox 360 Kinect that you can see right there, or something that looks like this guy right here, and it turns it into a 3D scanner. You can see this bit of a teaser trailer that they've got playing in the background of their website here, where in the top right-hand corner of the screen, you can see what is actual physical image of a gentleman just standing in the center of a room, and someone using the Xbox 360 Kinect to create a renderable object of that person. I did exactly this. What I did is I got a couple of my friends together, so a big thank you right now to Christopher Dunn and Mallory Bug for coming out and helping me with this. We raided our high school costume room and some of our own items that we just had laying around our house, and we created these characters that could be scanned into the game. So this right here is an actual scan of my friend Christopher standing in our basement, just in certain dress and with some items that we were able to scan, and now, bam, he is a high fantasy role-playing game character for the actual AR game itself. So just to kind of like click through those, this is some of our other ones. I'll kind of go through all of them. I have 8 models in total. That was our Bard. This is our Fighter that we can see here. Up next we have, this is our Ranger, and then we'll have our Rogue. Now, each one of these models was made in the Kinect technology and then exported in a specific way so that it could be read by the AR environment. And before it was put in the AR environment, they were all then set in that program earlier I mentioned called Blender, just to touch them up a little bit, maybe add some aspects. One note in particular would be this wizard guy. We did not have a floating ball of magic to scan. That was created entirely in Blender based off of a pillow that Christopher was actually holding in his hand right here. So that was a really fun part of the project, being able to take what we could do in real life and then augmenting it once we captured the 3D image. So those are the models. Those will come back up here in a little bit once we actually dive into the application itself. But those are the models that the user can select from to be able to then place on their objects in here via some logic that's coded right into this, based off of which image they're selecting. It will tell the system which model it would like, and then it loads that model to a specific image target, either red or blue. So I think that's enough rambling on the technical side for me. So I am going to attempt to just go ahead and cast my screen of my phone over here so we can see what this actually all looks like in proper implementation. So give it just 1 second to do its full connection. It's going right there. And we're here. So, I'm going to screen out here, and I'm going to scroll over. What you're seeing there, that is the official logo of the Dungeon Viewer application right there. So we're just going to click right on that and open us right up. So this is our front end. It's nothing too spectacular, but fancy front end design and proper user interface was not entirely in scope of this project. What is going to be more or less its functionality. So this is just a very basic little front end design that has our 2 primary options. We have user options and we have the arcane eye. The user options will look relatively familiar because we're going to see those models that we were just talking about. Here in user options is where the user actually gets to do that selection that I was talking about, where we can see there is a red token and a blue token area, and then you can slide along this seek bar here to pick one of the 8 models that we were just looking at. So there is our barbarian and there is our wizard. Now, a quick thing I do want to point out is that if you use the back button up at the top of the page, it actually will not save the changes that you made on the page. That is by design, given that there are only 2 buttons on the front end of the main page that you first open up to. I wanted the user to have an option to leave this page without changing any options they may not want to change. However, if you do make changes and you hit Submit Changes, the button down there at the bottom, it will remember those options that you changed. So I'm going to go ahead and set this back to what it was at its very beginning. And we are going to have our user options page at its default, and we're going to go ahead and open the Arcane Eye. Now, what this is we are actually entering the actual AR environment. So it may be running a little bit slower on the screen share than it is on my device, but just bear with me. I do want to be able to show you a couple of things. So right now we are back at my kitchen table, where we just were before, being able to see all of our different pieces, but the big difference we're going to notice is that we now have our models of our barbarian available to us based off of the tokens that we use. Now, I've blown these tokens up for the purpose of this demonstration so that you can see them. But just a couple other things I would like to show you is that if we do go back to our user options page, and we say instead of having our barbarian, we would like to have our wizard and our ranger out. We just go ahead and submit changes, we relaunch our Arcane Eye, we refix our models, wait for anchorable surfaces. Give it just one moment. And there is our ranger, assigned to blue that we can see up at the top of the screen. And there is our wizard. Taking just a second to load today, but that's just fine. So as you can see, you can move these around on the actual, on the table. And these actually can be very easily scaled down to the size of normal playable miniatures so that they could match along with them. However, they were scaled to this size for the purposes of this presentation, just so they were a little bit more easily viewed, for the presentation itself. So we're going to go back, and there's now actually one last thing that I want to show you that exists within this app. And this was something that was a tad out of scope, and that is this little button we see down here on the user options page called Free Play Mode. When I was developing this app, I came across something that was called a transformable node, and I realized that that node did not require an image target to be loaded. All it needed was an anchorable surface. If you remember from back when we were in the AR environment itself, there was all those white dots that were appearing on the table. That's what's called an anchorable surface. That is the program recognizing that there is a flat surface that can be anchored to with a model. In this case, it then assured that anchoring or updated that anchoring via the image target, which were the QR codes you saw laying on the table. However, I developed my own function called a dynamic rendering function that allows us now to go into our AR environment, and you'll notice that the top of the screen has been replaced. Instead of telling you which models you previously selected, there is now the same scroll bar we had before and a model indicator. So what we're going to do is it's indicating you to look for that anchorable surface. That's what the hand was. And once it finds it, all you need to do is tap, and you can create an entirely scalable, can go all the way down to the same size as the physical dice on the table to the actual real-life human size the model was to begin with. And you can move them around, you can spin them, and even cooler, you can decide to select a different one. You can go to Wizard, and now you have another one. And you can do this for as many models as you would like. Let's say now we want our Ranger out. And now we have our Ranger, and these are all entirely movable and playable with. You can get up, you can walk around them, you can go right up to them and say hello. That is free play mode, which is a honestly, much cooler version of this application than was ever even designed in the first place. But once I got close enough on the QR code image targeting side of it, I theorized how to do this, and it was actually a fairly downhill walk to get there from where I was, which was a really cool application and implementation into this project as a whole. So that is pretty much everything I needed to show you guys on the technical side. Go ahead and meet me back at my kitchen table here in just a second, and we'll do one final sign-off. So thank you so much, guys. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming by and spending some time with me and learning a little bit about my project. I really do hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions at all, I would love to discuss my project more with you. You can go ahead and shoot me an email. I'll make the comments open on this video. It'll be saved to YouTube. You can find that, I'm sure. I just want to give a couple of thank yous. First and foremost, to a big thank you to all those in charge of this Academic Excellence Day thing. I think it's really awesome that we're still getting the opportunity to share all of our hard work with everyone there at McKendree. I want to give a thank you to McKendree, just in general to the Computer Science Division for making this all a reality. This was such a fun project and really introduced to me a passion that I have for a certain kind of programming that I discovered within this project that I hope to do as a career later on in my life. I think this was a really cool project and I learned a lot. And last but certainly not least, I really want to thank Dr. Delaney. He was the moderator and professor for this senior seminar. He did a great job of helping us all plan and execute our project. He was a lovely mentor, so thank you very much, Dr. Delaney, from me to you. I think that's everything else I had to say, guys. I really appreciate you all coming out. Stay safe out there and stay healthy. Bye.